Hello, everyone, and welcome finally to Introduction to Database Applications. Again, this course is really kind of a two-part course. The first part of this course, as you know, as you already have taken, has been part of learning the loop, the iterative structure, and in doing so, learning some pretty cool tools that could actually help you with your programming. Number one, string manipulation, and number two, arrays. Right now, what we're going to do is probably take you on a complete curveball and take you to the next step here, which is database applications. Um, is there similarities with arrays and so on with that? Well, maybe if we stretch it a little bit. But for the most part, what we're going to be doing is actually now working with all the result sets and inserts and updates and deletes that you practice in IT 111. We're going to incorporate that now into your applications, just like everything that you've been working on your whole life usually has a database behind it, and it's a database application. Uh, Blackboard that you're working on right now, viewing this particular video, is a database application, and so on. So we're going to get into this and have you start building these things. Once you're done with this semester, you're going to be shocked how far you've come and what kind of database application you have actually created. Here's the cool part. I don't think it's very hard. Once you get some things going and once you start working on it, it becomes cut and paste. And we'll talk about that as we move on. All right? In this video, what I want to do is talk about what is a database application. Let's make sure we completely understand what that is. And then number two, the consistent steps in creating a database application. That's what I like about this. There's a consistency about this, that every time you need to do something against a database, there are certain steps you need to go through. They literally don't change too much. They might change just a little bit based upon what you're trying to do, but not too much. The steps are pretty much very consistent. So that's a good thing. That's why it becomes cut and paste. All right. So what is a database application? First, what's an application? Well, you've been working on programming application. It's one that takes input, processes that input, and creates output. Okay, that's an application. Up to this point, your input has been more of the shape of taking things off of a form and usually doing something with it and then putting the results back onto the form. That's all great, okay? When you incorporate a database, then it gets a little bit different. That everything you've done so far still holds true, and you'll still probably be doing a lot of that stuff. But a database is now another external piece to your processing that could either be an input or it could be an output, okay? Meaning, we could go like when you logged in this morning, that became an output. You logged in. That was going against a database that determined if your login and password were correct. You guys are going to learn how to do that in the coming weeks. If you logged in and you inserted information about yourself in your profile, that became an insert. Okay, if you updated your profile, maybe with a new password, that became an update. These things you learn in SQL, these are all things you're going to practice now as we get into database applications. All right. I'm going to get out of here for a second. I always like taking people to good old Amazon. And Amazon, if you sit back and look at this, is nothing but a huge database application. Now, this is a web-based database application, and based upon what courses you take in the remaining of your curriculum, you can learn to do web-based database applications. Web-based database applications, I should say. All right? But we're not going to do that in this class. In this class, we're going to do window forms database applications. But there's still a lot of similarities of what we're doing. Programming is programming. All right, this form is basically on the web, where the form you've been doing is in Windows. The concepts are all the same, the logic is all the same, and how you access the database is identically the same. That's what's great about all this, okay? So what do I mean by, if I sit back, I have my stuff up here, and I look at my orders. Lord knows what I ordered here. Whoops. I would go in, number one, and I would sign in, all right? And so this is taking it against the database. Where do you think my ID and my password is located at on Amazon's website? It's in a database. So as soon as I click sign on here, again, I'm going to show you how to do this in future classes. It's going to go do a select statement against that table to see if where my ID and my password match. If they don't match, meaning my result set's empty, it's basically going to give me an error. If it does match, it's going to open me up, and just like this right here, to show you all my recent orders. Kind of crazy stuff. You can kind of look at my all the way through. All right. So, wow, where did we get all these orders at? From the database. Remember, get them to buy it from IT 111. Very similar. We kind of looked at this also, in there. But this is a database application, all right, that's actually showing me stuff. And after this week, you'll be doing something very similar, showing results from a query to the database. And this query was, go get me all the orders, okay, from this customer and the orders table, and blended it all together. You guys know how to do that. It's a join statement. That's what's sitting behind this. And the where clause be based upon my customer ID or my customer name or whatever. Kind of cool. So this is what this is. This is a select piece of that, okay? If I sat back and I went out and I ordered something, if I went back to I'm not going to do this or my wife would kill me here, but if I actually got out here and I said I really wanted to buy whatever this is, what is that? I don't know what that is. I guess look something let's just buy some golf balls. If I wanted to buy some golf balls, that order is being inserted into my order table and connected to me, correct? Via that join. And so that's how this all works. Inserts, joins, updates, and so on and so on. And you just manipulate it throughout your code. Okay? Let's get back to our piece here. All right, so next, okay, I'm going to go back up here for you. Oops, let's see, we are now right here. All right, so as we have warned you, I hate to say warned, but as we promised you, I should say, we will now bridge what you've learned in VB.NET, from IT 101 all the way through IT 102 up to this point, and what you've learned in SQL Server. We're now going to put it together through the remaining piece of this course, okay? Like I said, very rarely do I ever write a program that doesn't have a database incorporated with it. That's what database programming is all about, especially if you're doing business type of programming. You're going to go work for a business. It's usually database applications. Not 100% of the time, but a great majority of the time. So how do we do this? Here's the cool part. There are steps. We will go take these steps in future videos, step by step, to show you how to do it. This is kind of a little bit of an overview. So based on the requirements of an application, you will need to determine what it is you need to access from a database, or what it is you need to be doing, okay? Once again, if we go back to our example, if I sat back and I said, go get me all my orders, I know what I want to do is go call the database. Okay, in my code sitting there, it's creating a SQL statement, and it's executing that statement. And then it's showing the result sets. Those are the steps. All right, let's get back to here again. Sorry, I hope I'm not making you dizzy. Okay, and so there's several steps here. Let's go through them. The first thing we're going to do every time we want to access the database, be it for an insert, an update, delete, or a select, we're going to connect to it. Beautiful pieces, and once you connect to it one time, you got it. Okay, you can just copy the code over and over again. Better yet, we'll make the code into a procedure that we'll call over and over again. Just that simple. All right. Basically, what we're doing is we need to connect to it. We need to find it. Databases usually in a industry are at a separate location than what your programs are, because they're highly secured, right? We don't want our bank information to a point that is so easy to access it from any programmer. So it's usually behind firewalls, highly secure firewalls, and so on. So when we connect to it in our application, we have to have the correct paths, and we have to have the correct security to do so. All right? For our class, your database is going to be sitting on your computer. Sort of beautiful. Matter of fact, you've already created the database, okay? And you already have SQL Server. We're going to be utilizing that throughout this course. Once we connect to it, we open it. We literally follow the steps of really any kind of external data processing, be it a text file or a database. You open it. Think of a manila file. You got to open it up, and then all those rows and all those tables are there for you to play around with. So we actually learn how to open. What's cool about this isn't anything that's unique to Microsoft or VB.NET. These steps I'm showing you right now is how you do it in every language. And I will show you a few other languages as we move forward with future videos. Once we open it, we're going to create a SQL query in our code. I'm going to teach you two things in this class. One, how to build these queries inline, it's called, and also as stored procedures. You hear those two terms in industry. Initially, we're going to spend the next 3 weeks doing everything inline, meaning we're actually going to do this in code. You're actually going to write the select statements, insert statements, updates, deletes in code, in VB.net. Okay? I'll show you how to do that. They come in the form of a string. All right, and we'll concatenate arguments based upon that, like, where customer ID equals this. Maybe you're going to get that customer ID somewhere else and incorporate it. I'll show you how to do it. Once again, once you get a few working, it's pretty easy. Okay, so we're going to write that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to execute that query. Every language has the ability to execute. So you create the query, and then you're going to execute the query. All right. Finally, well, not finally, the next step was we're going to process the results, okay? For an insert, update, and delete, usually the processing is nothing more than telling the user of the application that it was successful. Yeah, you added just row, or you have this order done, you ordered this stuff, whatever. From a select type of thing, it could be that you are going to take the results set and format it in some fashion and display it, okay? Those orders that I showed you were formatted in HTML and CSS to make them all look pretty, but that was all data from a database originally, okay? We'll learn how to loop through those result sets, so we'll keep looping throughout the remainder of this course. The iterative process is in full glory all the way through IT 102, all right? You may also go get that data and process that data. Maybe you're going to take it and process it, do operations against it, addition, subtraction. Who knows what you're going to do with all this data? Again, it's a form of input, okay? And so on as we go through that. Does that make sense? Again, this is just an introduction. I'm going to show you the details in future videos. Finally, we close the database in a connection. We usually do this for a couple different reasons. One, if we do inserts and updates and deletes, it what do you want to say, saves the transactions, okay? Two, it also closes it for future people to possibly use the database or for you to use it again later on. So that's the whole piece here. That's it. Those steps, those 5 steps, okay, are the steps you're going to take every time you want to access the database in your program. They became very consistent. And again, a lot of cutting and pasting. That's what I said is the cool part here. These steps are for all SQL queries. We call them transactions, okay, that you will have in your database. Once you start doing a few and get them working, developing a database application becomes a cut, paste, up, changing what you need, because it's going to be a little bit different for every situation, but it's a lot of cutting and pasting, okay, and then a little bit of modification and then incorporating. All right? That's it. That's an introduction to databases. Now let's go on to the next videos and learn how to do it.